Welcome to another jam-packed episode of the Sports Card Nation podcast, the show that brings you all the important news from the sports card hobby. We'll have some debates, opinions, new release schedules, and info. Plus, we'll also discuss the sports that so directly affect the hobby we all love. We'll mix in an occasional gambling tip or two, throw in some life stuff, and bring you great guest interviews from the hobby and sports dignitaries. And if you're good listeners, we may even give away a few things now and then. Now, here's the guy who wanted the cards and not the gum, John Newman.
Welcome to episode 13 of the Sports Card Nation podcast. So 5 or 6 months ago, when I was toying with the idea of launching the show, launching the podcast, there are sports card podcasts, as I've said on the show many times, that I listen to and enjoy. I've had a couple of those hosts actually on the program, and that was a great thrill of mine, and I hope to have them on again, and I will talk about other podcasts on the show. I don't think there's anything wrong. I know I listen to 4 or 5 different ones that I enjoy, and I think that's kind of what the hobbyists out there kind of do when it comes to podcasts. Is I think they, there's probably 12 to 20 sports card podcasts from what I can tell and gather, and I think the majority of hobbyists who do listen to podcasts pick 4 or 5, maybe 3 or 4 that they really like more than the other ones, and they listen to those on a regular basis. Maybe they'll listen to one of the other ones they don't listen to on a regular basis occasionally, but I think you generally pick 3 to 5 out that you like, and you kind of make appointment podcast with it, where when it comes out you listen to it, whether it be on a commute home or commute to work or on a Saturday in your office, and whatever the situation may be. And I hope we're one of those shows for you, and that's, we'd love to be in that realm. So when we were deciding that we were, actually going to do this, listening to other podcasts, it's like I said to Eric Norton from Beckett and Fat Packs, is to say no, you don't take from other podcasts wouldn't be honestly being genuine about that. I think we all may take different things from each other and implement them. But the one thing I said to myself when thinking about how I was going to do this show and this program is I wanted it to be a little bit different. Yes, it's going to cover the hobby. So you're going to talk about similar things that are going across all the podcasts and whatnot. That's a given. But I wanted to do something a little bit different. The hobby covers a lot of layers, from executives at these card companies to the collector at the lowest levels. And the executives at these card companies, if they were honest, would tell you without the hobbyists, without the collectors, without the breakers, without people opening the products, their company wouldn't exist. That those people on the front lines of the hobby are the lifeblood, the lifeline to this hobby. And like I said, when I started the podcast, I wanted to encompass everyone, but more even so, those people at the base, the ground level, right on the front lines, the collectors, the hobbyists, the breakers, and everybody. And I also wanted to be interactive. I wanted to make it known to people, to listeners, that we care what they want to hear. We want to bring them content that is going to interest them, that they're going to give us their time. If you listen to this show, you are giving a portion of your time. That doesn't go unnoticed. That doesn't go unappreciated. So for that, I thank you. And I want to be interactive. We've done giveaways. I'm going to do more giveaways. I want to bring on guests that encompass, again, a lot of the levels of the hobby. From, Eric Norton, who's one of the greatest ambassadors this hobby's had, to a collector on the base level. Everybody's important, just the same. And I have a young man on the program today, inspires me. He kind of reached out to me, truth be told, said he was listening to the show, that he liked the show, was a fan of the show. That's all he always said. And then he mentioned in passing, I'm a blind collector. I'm legally blind and I collect cards. And that struck me. I'm like, how can that be? And I was intrigued by that. And I struck up a conversation, via text, with Shane Compo, and learned a lot of, quite a bit about him. And it's amazing, if I can be so bold, that someone with a disability of a lack of sight can enjoy a hobby that kind of really relies on sight. And you're going to hear in this interview some of his disability almost is an ability in a sense. And without giving too much away, you'll hear it for yourself and see if you agree. And then the other thing, is, again, I wanted to be interactive. I wanted to give away prizes. I wanted to bring content. And that being said, I have a list of topics that we're going to be covering in the coming weeks. But if there are topics or discussions that you want to hear us talk about or give our opinions on, please, by all means, reach out to us via private message, our social medias, our emails that we'll give out on the program shortly here. Reach out to us. Tell us what you want to hear. Tell us hey, I don't want to hear that. You do that and I didn't like that segment or whatnot. We want that feedback. We want to bring the best show that we possibly can to you, because we want your time. It's very important to us. And the other thing, when I decided I was going to do this, I wanted to do a weekly show. I wanted it to be on Fridays. I wanted to pick a day and the show gets released every day. I want it to be, consistency. Sort of like that morning paper always gets thrown on the doorstep at 6:45 a.m. or what have you. I wanted to be the podcast. A new episode is coming out Friday, and something maybe someone will look forward to as much as we look forward to producing it. So I hope we're headed in that right direction. I hope you're enjoying the program. Tell us what you want to hear, what you want to see on the program or future episodes. I'm a notes guy. I'm always writing notes and future ideas and whatnot. So I'm open to suggestions. Don't be shy. Let us know what you want to hear. Without further ado, let's start the program. All right. One of the things on the Sports Card Nation podcast we want to do is we want to encompass everybody. We've had Eric Norton, Drew Herndon on. We plan on having some executives from the card companies eventually on, and some famous people as well, although Eric and Drew are. But the hobby is not just about those people. It's the hobby is everybody. And, my next guest goes by the name of Shane Compo. He's from Yakima, Washington. He's 22 years old, and he collects cards. Not a big deal. There's a lot of collectors, thankfully, in the hobby. But Shane has one little built-in disadvantage that he's overcoming. And when I found out about him, I definitely was interested. I think it's a great story. I want to have him on to kind of highlight how he's overcome this, to enjoy the hobby, and maybe be a little inspiration to others who are maybe, a little hesitant or don't think they can, or, maybe the stigma, maybe they're a little embarrassed. I'm not saying they are, but if that's the case, he's an example to me that, if you want to do something, if you enjoy something, do it. Yes, it might be a little more difficult, but, if gets through that and he enjoys the hobby just like me or you would. So I'm going to have Shane on. Shane is legally blind, like I said, but he collects cards, and again, I think it's great, and I want to talk to him about how that works and what that entails. So Shane, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me on. I'm excited.
No problem. Thank you for your time. Well, I if you want, I don't want to put you on the spot. It is your personal business. If you want to talk a little bit about your personal history with, being blind and how that all went about. I know we talked off the air. I know you had some surgeries and to improve a little bit of your sight. But if you want to give the listeners, as much background on that as you're comfortable sharing.
Oh, yeah, I can definitely do that. So it all started when I was born, back in 1996. I was born completely blind. According to my mom and my dad, telling me that I had like a white, like just plain white, like kind of, I guess like an eggshell or white, how white egg whites are and everything. That was basically covering up my whole eyes. So basically I had no sight, no vision at all, according to doctors and everyone. And so my parents, wasn't sure if I was going to be like that for long time. They never knew. So 3 months after I was born is when I actually had my first surgery on one of my eyes to try to clear up, some of that white stuff, whatever it was. And so that's what happened. They improved a little bit. My condition is actually called, it's congenital opaque corneas, also known as clouding of the corneas. And so it was a pretty interesting road for my parents, me being blind and everything from birth. And I've had, as far as my knowledge knows, I had 5 surgeries going, from 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, and over 1 year old. I believe 3 on my right eye and 2 on my left. And my right eye is the worst of the 2. What the surgery ended up doing was, for most of my life, I only had light. I only could see light out of my right eye. My left eye is where I could see more, whereas in very vague. That's how I've been living my life, is mostly out of my left eye. I'm jumping ahead, but I lost the sight of my right eye due to an eye infection back in 2013, I believe.
Okay. So just to give the listeners kind of an idea, what percentage of sight compared to like a normal vision person do you have, or medically, speaking?
Medically speaking, on paper, I believe I would like to say 90%, but it's between 90 to 95%. I cannot see. I only see 5 to 10% out of my left eye.
Yeah. So out of the right, you have no vision. You're saying.
Yep, nothing out of my right eye.
Yeah. But, you're an example of someone who, despite those, disabilities, you still do things you enjoy, cards being one of them. Give the listeners a little bit of, how did you get into cards? What age? How did it start? Why did it start? Kind of the, how that all came about.
So I got into cards, probably I was around 12 years old, 12 or 13. But first I had to get into sports before I got into cards.
Yep.
So I got into sports before that due to video games. Because my brother would always play sports video games, and before that I would never. And I finally just asked my brother, hey, I want to play with you. What team can I be? And so he just picked a team for me. I think it was a basketball game. And so he would play as the Sonics, because the Sonics were still a team around that time. And so he just chose somebody from the Western Conference, and he chose the Lakers for me. And so that's how he became a Lakers fan for basketball.
Yeah.
And then it'd be the same for baseball. He would find somebody that's in the AL against the Mariners, so he chose the Angels for me. So that's how I became an Angels fan. So basically I was a Los Angeles sports fan from those perspectives.
Yeah, it kind of it's funny, worked out by what teams you got playing the game. You became a fan of the team.
Yeah, I just became fans of the team. So then my brother was telling me about cards. And so I was like, really? There's cards? And so we would buy, I was more of a basketball card collector when I first started. And so that's what I would get mainly around that time. I get a lot of Lakers cards. And then, whoever else I got was okay. Yeah, that's cool. But I was more excited into Lakers, of course. And then when baseball season came around, started collecting more baseball cards and everything, putting everything in binders. And the method that I would do back then for the cards is I would open up the pack, look at the cards, just look at the pictures, and then I would hand them to my brother, who would read them to me since he's sighted. I'm the only blind one in my family.
Okay.
So I would just hand, whenever I was done opening up the packs, looking at the pictures, I'd hand them to my brother, and he would read them off to me. And so that all changed now since I'm older. My brother moved out, and yeah. So that's how pretty much it got started, was back 2008, 2009.
Yep. So currently now when you open or purchase packs, how are those acquisitions made? Do you go to shows at all? Is all your purchases online? How do you go about acquiring your inventory and cards?
I've never been to a card show. I really want to, but right now retail products, I go to Target or Walmart with my dad. With my dad and my family whenever they decide to go to Target or Walmart. That's how I get the retail products. And then the hobby box and all that supplies I order online on eBay, or I use Dave and Adam's Card World.
Yep. And, free plug if they're listening.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I mainly try to do online since I know I use my iPhone with a voice screen reader that helps me navigate. So that's how I order most of my cards, is online.
Yeah. Now you mentioned you've never been to a show. I'm gonna ask a personal question, Shane. So forgive me. Is that because are there not shows maybe in your area, or are you a little bit kind of nervous maybe to go, like self-conscious or that sort of thing, or just that opportunity hasn't presented itself?
No, I'm not nervous to go. It's just if there are shows, I don't know about them. I haven't really looked into it. I just never found any posting events. I haven't looked hard enough to actually see if there are any card shows in this area, and if not, I'd have to find one closest in either in Washington or at least around the Washington State area.
Yeah. Well, I encourage you. If you enjoy the hobby, no doubt a show is a great experience, a great way to acquire some new inventory. I got my start basically, helping a dealer way back when, as kind of just doing shows, and then I kind of branched off and eventually, did my own thing. So I there's a lot less. Let's be real. Unfortunately, there's a lot less shows than there ever used to be. But they're still out there, and if you get a chance, I definitely, recommend, you get to one. I think you'll really enjoy the experience.
Yeah, I think so too. Going with my dad, usually if I go off to, because I've been to a few hobby stores over in the Seattle area with my dad, and my dad would be reading off what he sees to me, and so that's how I would navigate that part.
Yeah.
In finding out what they have.
Well, it's nice, and that's another thing about this hobby that's great. And, we had Eric Norton on, and he talked about, him and his son sharing some hobby experiences. We had Tim Virgilio on, and he got his start in the hobby with him and his dad collecting cards. And even with my own son, we do some of that too. And it's nice, you mentioned your brother is who alerted you that, hey, we're playing these sports games, but there's cards of these guys too, and he got you started, and that your dad supports you and will take you to the store and help you, figure out what products and items you may want and are interested in. I think those are the good stories that we don't hear enough sometimes in this hobby, Shane. So it's nice that you have those relationships and experiences to build on those. Does your brother? I know you mentioned your brother got you started and involved in them. I know you said he's moved on and moved out. Does he still do cards at this point?
Not sports cards. He's more of a Yu-Gi-Oh card collector now.
Yeah.
So that's what he's doing nowadays. Whenever he has the chances, Yu-Gi-Oh cards, and I do baseball cards.
Yeah. So I want to give a plug. You got one episode in. You're doing your own podcast with that's awesome, man. I told you, any assistance or any advice, I'm here for you. Not that I'm a know-it-all expert, but doing it a little bit now, I've acquired some knowledge. And your show's called the Blind Card, which you explained is obvious. Okay, which is a great title. It'll be something. The more you do it, you get better at it. I know on the first episode you were opening packs and going through the process and describing, who you got, who was in the pack and whatnot. For those listening out there, obviously your difficulty doing that is going to be at a higher degree than me or maybe someone else that just rips open the pack. If just to put somebody else in your world, how do you now where you're at? How do you do that to see the player, who it is, and that sort of thing?
So it all started last year when I first got back into baseball card collecting because my brother moved out 2013, but even at the time I wasn't even collecting because I'm transferred out of my high school and I was going to a boarding school, so I didn't have time to go to any stores or anything. I'd be just at the school and I'd fly back home every weekend to see my family, and going back and forth between that got me out of card collecting for quite a few years. I graduated 2014, but then I went on to college after that for a couple of years, and even then I didn't even have time I never thought about collecting. And when I dropped out of college because I was just so stressed out about it, I moved back home with my parents for, let's see, from 2016 to now, I'm still living with my parents and then just trying to find a place to eventually. And so I was just bored one day, and I saw, I think it was Instagram, I saw Tops, and I saw a live they were doing for last year's 2018 Series 1, and I watched that live of them opening up and showing everyone what the design for the 2018 cards were going to be, and that got me back into collecting, and so I just started buying 2018 cards. And at the time, I still wasn't sure about how I was actually going to read the cards. I'd still just look at the pictures. I didn't have my brother. I didn't want to bother my dad. Because, my dad would be at work, come home from work, exhausted.
Yep.
So I didn't want to bother my dad with that. So when I first got my 2018 Series 1 hobby box, I just opened up the cards and just put them in the binder. And I was just randomly messaging a friend probably a month after that series date was released, and I was telling her, I have no way of reading my cards right now, so all I'm doing is just putting them in binders and everything. And she's saying, well, why don't you try using a magnifier on your iPhone and the accessibility features? And I was like, what? And so, she went on to tell me where to go in my iPhone setting and accessibility to turn on the magnifier. I tried that. I put the card in front of the camera and zoomed in, so you can zoom in on how much you want. And I was like, oh my God, I can actually see the card now. I can actually see the words on the card. And so I got used to doing that. But I started only reading the numbers, because all I wanted to do was just build the set. I never looked at the names in front. I just turned the card over and I just read what card number that was. That's all I did now for the longest time up until I started my podcast. When I started my podcast, I have to start reading the names on the front of the card. And before I started recording, I'd never done that. So when I first recorded, that was the first time I actually read the names on the front of the card. And that was a struggle. If anyone goes and listens to my podcast, The Blind Card, episode 1, that was the very first time I ever read the front of the card. And it was quite frustrating. But I'm going to get used to it. That's for sure.
Yeah, well, you keep, you work on it. You'll probably, it's like a lot of things in life, Shane. The more you do something, there's new technologies too that come out. That'll be that, here, like you said yourself, you didn't even think about the accessibility option on your iPhone, and that even made a huge difference. And so even little things like that are coming down the line. It might be something it will make it a lot more, less difficult for you.
Yes, it will. And I'm surprised about how short it took for me to actually do that episode. That first episode is about under an hour, and that's actually quite an improvement than when I'm not recording. When I'm not recording, it probably would take me pretty much the whole day to go through those cards to see what it is. And so it's a vast improvement already,
Yep, and it's something that made me think about, something you just said made me think about, sometimes when we rip open stuff, those of us who are sighted, and sometimes I think we ripping the stuff open so fast because you're looking for that big card, and you don't really appreciate the product and even the base cards, and the fact that maybe it takes you a little bit longer. I think I don't want to speak for you here. You can tell me if I'm wrong, but you probably, and God bless you, you probably appreciate the whole process, more than someone that's just ripping it open and, oh, I didn't get that pack stunk, I think you appreciate the every card in there because you go obviously at a slower pace.
Yeah, I really do. And when I pull like a rainbow foil in Series 1 or Series 2 or update, I really look at it because that's pretty cool how they can make it have that shine to it. And looking at the inserts, those really look cool. And then like you said, the base cards as well. And, it's really exciting for me to see on my own for the first time in my short life,
Yeah, and that's the thing. Wherever the cards everyone else kind of takes for granted, those base cards, which are rookies, people forget that even like a 2011 Topps update Mike Trout huge card in the hobby, that's a base card that turned out to be quite a big base card, and there's others like that. So, when people just throw those base cards aside, I always kind of cringe, and, as someone who's been in the hobby himself since 1979, I appreciate all the facets that the hobby has to offer, and I think some people, I don't mean this pun, but I think some people lose sight of that, and I think you don't. And I think that's refreshing, and I think what might be considered a disadvantage in kind of an ironic sort of way might be an advantage.
Yeah, I noticed on YouTube some people, they just skim through the cards on camera and then just show the hits, and I was like, there's some really nice base cards. Like this year's in 2019. Series 1, that Mike Trout base card looks really cool of him jumping.
Yeah.
Like him jumping for a catch. That one really looks cool.
It's funny you mentioned that card. This is a true story. The card's literally on my desk in a pile of Tops I just recently opened. So as you're talking about the card, I'm looking at it sitting here. So you know, and you described it to a T, because that's exactly what he's doing. He's looks like he's robbing a home run from over the wall, and it is a great shot.
Yeah, so I really can't wait to see my card in front of my camera whenever it appears in a pack, and hopefully it's in my hobby box that I have not opened yet.
Now, speaking of cards, Shane, do you trade at all with anyone? Do you have friends that collect as well? That you do any trading? Do you acquire things that way at all?
I have never done a trade yet. I sold a few Topps Livingston on eBay. I'm the only one out of my friends right now that collects. I do have another friend. He sees a lot more than me, but he's still legally blind. He wants to get back into collecting, so I made a deal with him. I told him, hey, whatever cards I have extra of, I will put together how much of the set I can for you, and I'll give them to you. So that's how, so right now I'm the only one collecting.
Yeah, well, that's very nice of you to, and that's, again, another story of what the hobby should be about. And there's a lot of stories like that, but that's really what the hobby's kind of built on, is that community, and you embrace that with, hey, I'll help you out, let's collect together type of deal, and that's, again, refreshing. So keep going. Now I hear you talk about, is Topps baseball pretty much like your main product or your favorite product?
Yeah, Topps is my favorite product to buy. I actually never bought any baseball cards from Panini. I know it looks different. I heard from you what the agreement is from the Players Association.
Yep.
Yeah, I did not know about that. So I personally never looked at their cards, and I'm kind of tempting to actually try to look at their cards, buy a pack, get them, and see what I think about them personally for myself. But for right now, all I've bought is Topps.
Yep. Well, I'll tell you this, and I'll be honest with you. Like you said, you heard me describe the reason that Panini can't produce licensed baseball cards. They do obviously produce baseball cards, but the team name, they can't say Seattle Mariners. They can say Seattle, and all the logos are obviously airbrushed. But Panini, I gotta say, for not being licensed, they do a pretty good job with a good percentage of their baseball releases. I'll tell you what I'll do. I appreciate you coming on. I'm going to make sure I'm going to get your address off the air, obviously, Shane, and I'm going to send you a few Panini packs and a few other things, and you can have your maybe on episode 2 you can open up your first Panini baseball product.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that.
No problem, man. I really enjoy. You inspire me. The fact that someone is using, despite their disability, you're still enjoying something you enjoy, and maybe someone else. What I'm hoping, honestly, maybe someone else will hear this interview that's maybe even on the fence or a little bit, kind of shy or timid to take that next step, and maybe hearing you describe how you do it will inspire them. And even if it's not collecting cards, maybe it's something else they want to do. Maybe hearing you talk about how you overcome, your own disability to still enjoy things you like, and maybe that'll be something that gets them over not doing that. And if that's the case, man, that's just a wonderful thing.
Yeah, actually, I was just thinking about it. I have a friend who's blind. I think he sees only one eye as well. And what he collects seems to me would be harder, because he collects coins. And to me, that would be a lot harder to see than cards.
Yeah, I think the only thing, and I'm not a coin expert, when I was younger, I kind of collected foreign coins and coins from different years, like a lot of kids do when they're younger. Maybe with the coins, you probably, it's probably difficult. I don't want to make it sound like it's easy, but because things are raised on it, you might be able to, kind of feel it and maybe see it in that sort of sense, where cards don't have that. you know.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, it's something that my friend would have to come out and talk publicly about, because I don't even know. But he does. Every blind person.
Hey, maybe there's your first guest on your show.
Yeah.
Well, Shane, I appreciate it, man. I you're awesome. I'm not just saying that. I hope people listening, I think, would probably say the same thing. Keep enjoying the hobby. Bring other people into it as much as you can. It's a great community. It really is. Keep going with the podcast, the blind card. Like I said, I'm going to send you some Panini baseball stuff. You can open it on the air, and it'll give you material for your next show.
All right, thank you.
All right, that's Shane Compo proving to everybody that no matter what the odds and obstacles, you can still do things you enjoy, and a great inspiration to me, and I have a feeling for some of you out there as well. Thanks, Shane.
Yep, no problem.
Check out our supporter, Break Stuff Market, your new innovative and global marketplace for trading cards, stickers, and sports memorabilia. They have some of the lowest fees on the market at only 4%. All their transactions are secure via PayPal and Stripe. It's easy to set up from any device, and they have some of the highest community and security standards to avoid being scammed. Don't wait. Join Break Stuff Market now. Go to https://breakstuff.market. All right, it's time for What's Crackin'. All right, let's start off with the upcoming releases for the week. We'll go with baseball first here. On February 20th, Topps Tribute Baseball 2019. On the 22nd, Leaf Valiant Baseball 2018. Also in basketball, on the 15th, 2018, Leaf Best of Basketball. And on the 20th, 2019 Panini Impeccable Basketball. On football side, plates and patches just came out, but Panini Select Football 2018 is going to be out on the 20th. And on the 27th, Panini's Contenders Optic Football. And if it's anything like the Contenders, that's sure to be red hot. Hockey on the 27th is 2019 Upper Deck Synergy Hockey, and the Upper Deck Series 2 is out now, just released. Also just released, what I want to talk a little bit about is Panini One. It's Panini's one card encased product similar to Topps Dynasty Baseball. It's the football equivalent. I have not opened any yet. It retails anywhere from $110 to $125 a box for that one card you will get. Plenty of RPAs and patch autos. But I have seen quite a bit broken on live breaks and YouTube breaks, and it is a nice product. I will tell you my early assessment of it is it's probably going to be a tough product to make your money on because it just seems like some of the big hits are not frequent, if you will. Their cards are beautiful nonetheless. I'm going to be honest with you. I got some incoming because I went on eBay and did buy some, and the secondary market for those non-huge hits, your Favre autos, Peyton Manning, Baker Mayfield's, Tom Brady's, that stuff obviously at a premium. But a lot of the other stuff other than those big-time hits is really, really affordable and going well below what the box costs itself. So, you open it up, you get a Cortland Sutton or a Royce Freeman, and Even a Calvin Ridley, those cards are bringing, even a Calvin Ridley is bringing about 50 or less dollars. So to really make your money on this product, you're going to have to hit that big time hit, that Aaron Rodgers patch auto, Baker Mayfield, those type of hits that we all, know what they are. Anything short of that, you're going to kind of lose if you're opening it. Where the people who win on this product is people like me, the buyers, because you can go on that secondary market and pick up the singles you want at very affordable prices. I mean, I've seen individual cards going as low as $19 for this product. So it's good in that regard. It's a product I'm probably glad I didn't pre-order a bunch to break and open myself, because I could see that being where you take a little bit of a bath potentially. Again, there are some big hits, don't get me wrong, but just in the amount of stuff I've seen opened, they're infrequent, if I may say that. So it's definitely a secondary market product. People like me who are looking to get certain players or certain things that they want to stock or collect cheaper than buying a box for $125 and getting one card that you may not really be thrilled with. So the product itself is really sharp looking, really great patches, the autos, acetates there. I mean, it's a very well done product. But I think the what it's going to be known for is that secondary market. Obviously buying into a break is probably the best bet. It gets you in at a cheaper level to potentially get one of those big hits. You buy the Giants and you hope a Barkley's in that case and that sort of thing. But it's going to be a dream for people like me who like to jump on after the product's been opened and just buy individual cards they really want to obtain. And that's where that product is. So if you haven't heard the news, it's been making the rounds. Topps is back in football, sort of. Okay, they are granted the license for the American Alliance Football League that just had its opening weekend, did very well. I watched myself. I gotta say, it was honestly a little bit better product than I anticipated. So Topps is going to be the official card of this league. They're going to make us a set and packs and all that jazz. So people wanted Topps back in football. They got their wish, sort of. Not really. No. Okay. I know there's some excitement with this. Maybe this is the foot in the door type of thing. I don't see it like that. Okay, if Topps is going to get back in football again, it's not going to be because they're doing American Alliance football cards. And, while I may watch games, and as much as I love opening wax, I got to be honest with you, I have almost zero interest to open some packs of AAF. While the football was pretty decent, I don't think there's a lot of star power in this league, at least especially with card-wise. Some of the better players in the league, your Christian Hackenbergs, your Trent Richardsons. Card-wise, we all know what their cards were when they were on NFL teams, and you get a Trent Richardson or a Christian Hackenberg. I don't see really what the difference is now that they're the stars of the AAF. I don't see what, the chutzpah is going to be pulling one of those cards, I think what you hope for as a collector with the AAF is kind of that Kurt Warner story. Somebody kind of in this league that gets noticed, gets signed, gets in the NFL and becomes a superstar. I'm not sure there is anybody. You don't know. Granted, you can't judge a book by maybe someone emerges and is that next guy. But I just don't know if that league's going to produce that from it. Time's going to tell. And if it does, we're only talking about one or two guys. And I don't think that's going to be enough to drive a product. I think there'll be some initial interest. Like, again, it's going to depend on the price point, how much the product comes out at, and that sort of thing. But it's not, and I'm as big of a football fan, folks, as you get. I probably open more football packs than baseball overall. And, the AAF cards produced by Topps, I really, it doesn't get my juices flowing. Obviously, like Topps is back in the NFL. If it is a stepping stone, I'm all for it. I just don't anticipate me opening any of that stuff. I don't anticipate me buying singles and that sort of thing. Maybe there's a market for that. I think it may be risky on Topps' part, but I guess it's all how they market it, price level, price point, and that sort of thing. So we'll see. That is definitely something of interest. I want to definitely see how the product does. While I may not be in tune with it or enamored with it, will collectors. I'm only one of millions of collectors. Will the millions that are out there besides myself take a different stance? Will they buy into it where I won't? So we'll see. Congrats to Topps, I suppose. Hopefully, the one thing I am hoping is that it definitely is a step in the right direction to maybe getting their NFL license back. But only time will tell. We love hearing from our listeners. Without you, there is no us. We encourage your thoughts and feedback, and we do care about what you think. We encourage you to reach out to us at any of our social media accounts, and they are as follows. You can get a hold of us on Instagram at Sports Card Nation Podcast. That's all one word, Sports Card Nation Podcast. Or our Twitter, which is at SportsCardNatty1, SportsCard NATI1. Or if you go to Facebook, you can search Sports Card Nation Podcast. That's 4 words, and you'll find us. Or you can email the show at sportscardnationpc@gmail.com. Also, please give us a follow. We really do appreciate that. Thank you. It's time for From the Box Seat. Time to cover the wide world of sports. I think the big news at the moment is Kyler Murray has not only declared for the NFL draft, but basically said he is only going to play football, that he loves it, it's his passion. It's kind of what I predicted and kind of saw coming. And the Oakland A's are left at the altar to be stiffed. They'll survive. My take is Kyler Murray, I think, is a pretty decent football player. Very good football player, not decent. He's compared to, some of the comparisons I heard are to Patrick Mahomes. I think that's a pretty bold statement. Patrick Mahomes had one heck of a second year, but technically a rookie year, won MVP. In his first year as a starter. Looks like he's going to be a great football player for a very long time. So to throw Patrick Mahomes' name around when describing Kyler Murray's game is kind of a bold statement. I don't know if I'd go. Well, I know I wouldn't go that far. He's 5'10", which is really the big knock on him. I think he has the potential to be a solid NFL player. I definitely think he's going to be one of the hottest cards in the 2019 products. Obviously, whether that will hold up in the long term, obviously, as we all know, depends on how productive he is. So it's been a while since a 5'10" or shorter quarterback has been selected in the first round. I think that happens with Kyler Murray. Somebody is going to reach and just on athleticism alone, going to go grab him. And I think he has a chance to be a very good starter in the NFL. but I got to be honest with you, I can see some struggles too. So this one could go either way. It's going to be intriguing and interesting to say the least. And it's definitely going to put some excitement into the 2019 football hobby market. I got to be honest with you. We've talked on the show. I've had Drew Herndon on, and we talked about how 2018, it might be the best rookie class in the history of the hobby. Big, bold statement by me, but I believe it. I think it's going to stand the test of time. 10 years from now, 12 years from now, when we look at this rookie crop, you're going to see a lot of all-pros, some Hall of Fame careers there, and it's going to be a year where those products and those boxes will hold and maintain value because the rookies in it are going to be that good. 2019 on paper is nowhere near that. If you're a college football fan, as I am, and you follow it, you do got some quarterbacks that have potential. Kyler Murray, Will Grier, Drew Lock, those guys, but it doesn't have that same sizzle. There's no Saquon Barkley types at the running back position. There's a few receivers, but I think this year's 2018 class is double-digit deep of starters and first teamers and potential Hall of Famers. And I don't think on paper the 2019 is going to come anywhere near that. Kyler Murray declaring now, is definitely a shot in the arm. It's going to help the class, but is it going to be enough? Again, the old time will tell line, but that's really time will definitely tell. So on the baseball, it seems like I'm having this conversation every week with you. Bryce Harper and Manny Machado still out there, unsigned. I think they're obviously getting closer. I think it's going to probably happen in the next week or two. Let's hope so. I mean, this thing is really dragged on. I got to be honest with you. I didn't think they'd sign right away, but if you told me pitchers and catchers would report before they actually decided on who they're going to play for, I probably would have told you they would have decided by then. So what does it tell me? It tells me they're not getting the money that they thought they were going to get, or their agents were anticipating bigger, higher offers, whether it was for more years or for more cash. They are not getting kind of what they hoped for and assumed they were going to get. I think teams have kind of learned from contracts of the past, that people have gotten burnt. A-Rod, the Bobby Bonillas, those type of deals. Albert Pujols is kind of in one of those deals now with the Angels where they're paying him big money and those skills are starting to erode a little bit, yet they have many years on the contract to pay him. I think teams are leery to do that. And even though both of these guys are not old by any stretch of the imagination, actually they're fairly young, I think they're looking for long-term deals, and I don't think teams, not only just long-term deals, but for astronomical amounts of money. And I don't think these teams are backing up the Brinks truck. I mean, they're going to get paid. That contract, when it's announced, is going to be lucrative. Don't get me wrong, but I think both of these camps kind of misread the tea leaves, and I think they thought they were going to be offered more and under different terms. So I guess I'll revise my predictions to where these guys end up. Everything I'm reading now says the Yankees have really got back in the Machado sweepstakes, and they're going after him. If he goes there, it'll be interesting to see what they do with the Andahars and Gleyber's on the roster. I don't think all three will stay. And obviously if they sign Machado, that means to me one of those two guys is going to be dealt. And I think the Harper sweepstakes is down to two teams. I think that's what he's got to decide between now is the Philadelphia Phillies, and I think the San Francisco Giants have made a late push to throw their name in the hat. So I think for Harper, it's between the Phillies and the Giants, And I think for Machado, it sounds like it's between the Yankees and the White Sox. So we'll see. I'll be honest with you. It's kind of getting to be an old story. I wish these guys would just make up their mind and sign, and get it done with, so we can just focus on the game of baseball itself and not all the where they're going to wind up type of deal. So we'll see. Hopefully that's sooner rather than later. I got to think now with spring training basically starting, it is going to be sooner than later. Going to basketball, we got Anthony Davis wants out. LeBron wants him. There's issues there. That team's kind of quit playing. Anthony Davis is kind of, the team hasn't been trying not to play him, and the NBA's threatening to, if they don't play him, they'll fine the team. So, the NBA to me, and I was having this conversation with somebody else off the air, a friend of mine, we're talking about NBA. I'm not a huge fan. If you listen to the show, you've probably caught that vibe. The NBA is kind of run by the players. Players kind of run the league, and I think when that happens, the quality of the product will sometimes suffer, and I think that's what's going on. I think the hobby's in a strong place. I think the sport isn't, And speaking of the hobby, you got Luka Doncic. You're going to be your rookie of the year, superstar in the making, if not already there. And he's the right now the buzzword in the NBA. But if you take that away, there's some guys getting kind of lost in the shuffle. I think there's a couple other rookies that I really like, and maybe long term might be better investments even than Luka. I'm not saying Luka's not a superstar. I think he is. I think, me and Drew had this conversation on the program a few weeks ago. I think the hype is a little bit over the top, and I look at guys like Marvin Bagley Jr. and Trae Young putting up very solid, similar numbers, but not being talked about. Their cards are obviously nowhere near the stratosphere that Luka's are in, and I think they're great buys at the moment. I can tell you right now, I've picked up some rookies of both of these guys. I think they're bringing under value and under long-term value what they're going to be at. Barring injury, these guys are going to be, I think, budding superstars that right now are being overshadowed by the hype known as Luka. So my advice, invest in Bagley, Trae Young. There's some other guys as well that some other people like a little bit more than me. But that's my take, and I'm sticking to it. And I just want to close with talking about James Harden having a crazy good year, one of the all-time seasons to me in NBA. I think he's got like 30-something straight games of 30 points or more. Probably going to win another MVP. And the guy, sometimes, I know we talk about him, he's recognized as a superstar, so he's not underhyped, so to speak. But I think we sleep a little bit on James Harden of how good he is. And it's funny, he got to Houston and he was good in OKC, but it seems in Houston he's really just developed his game. He's just blown up, and he's a hobby force, And the big argument is now is he better than LeBron? And I think he is. I think he's a little bit younger, but if you're asking me, I can start my team with any one player. James Harden's probably right there in that mix, along with Anthony Davis. And it's not just performance that only matters, which I think is very important, but it's attitude and everything else and all the baggage that comes with it. And I think right now LeBron is kind of went from hobby darling, fan favorite to kind of a heel, almost like I said on the program a few weeks back, almost like in WWE. Sometimes that wrestler's a good guy, and then all of a sudden they change and they become kind of a villain. And I think LeBron has taken that villain persona. I think he's alienated teammates with things he says and does. I've heard some quotes where he's basically said, well, I'm not in the Eastern Conference no more, so you don't have to go through me. And while that might be true, to come out and say that like that is kind of a ballsy statement to make when you're on a Lakers team right now that frankly is winning or losing more games than they're winning. So, it's funny. Things are cyclic like that. I think LeBron is kind of, in a different air than he used to be. Is he still, you're opening basketball products and you pull a nice LeBron hit? It's still a great thing. I'm not saying it isn't, but I think a little bit of that bloom is off that rose. For over 25 years, Newman Sports Cards has set the standard in customer service in the sports card industry, including same-day shipping. They've added supplies and some wax products to their already great arsenal of rookie cards, game-used cards, autos, and graded cards. Check their fully searchable website out by Googling Newman Sports Cards. It's the first thing that comes up. Click on that link. Or follow them on the social media at Newman_sportscards at Instagram, or at Twitter at Nooms Sports Cards, or give them a call or text at 315-491-0239. Have a business or event you'd like to promote or highlight? Become a show sponsor. For a very affordable cost, we can highlight your company or business, either on the podcast or on our website or both. So whether you're a dealer, a breaker, or any other business, we really would love to work with you. Contact us at any of our social medias or email us at sportscardnationpc@gmail.com. That's sportscardnationpc, all one big word, @gmail.com. We look forward to working with you. Well, another episode's in the books. As I always try to do, I want to thank you for joining us. Again, there's other things you could do with your time other than listen to us, yet here you are. I want to give a sincere thanks for doing that. I want to, I mention how I listen to other programs, and I do. And I'm not going to mention the program by name. I don't think that would be fair. You might know by my description of it. It's another sports card program, podcast. And the host, I guess, is kind of famous for opening older wax on the show. And I listened to a recent episode, and it seemed like for about 20 minutes he was kind of pleading for donations via PayPal and other forms of payment, and I kind of cringed a little bit, to be blunt honest with you. He was saying that any funds that are donated would go to purchase the products to open on the air to help the program, and fees to the distributor of the podcast. And again, I cringed. There's plenty of platforms here at Sports Card Nation. We don't pay to put the podcast out there per se. We don't pay like a subscription rate. Now, we've bought equipment. I bought a new microphone and filters and some programs that to clean up the show and that sort of thing. And that stuff I'm going to buy out of my own pocket. I'm not. I'll say this right here and right now. This program will never ask listeners for money. That's not what it's about. If we need something to keep the program going, I'm going to get it myself. I do have a donate button on our website, which is completely a listener's choice if they want to do that, but I'll never plead on the show, please help us, please pay us. I'm not going to do that. I don't pay for any podcasts I listen to, and I don't feel like you should pay for any podcast that you enjoy. So we'll never solicitate funds. It goes against what I believe in with this form of media, and I've opened wax myself on this show. If you listen to the show, you've heard me rip some wax packs on the show. Those I will buy. I will not ask somebody to supply that, that funds for that effort. That's going to be something I do, out of my own wallet. And I'm not even patting myself on the back. That's just the way it should be to me. So, hearing that other show do that, it kind of rubbed me the wrong way. I definitely wanted to kind of talk about it. That being said, I do want to ask for two things, and they're free. They won't cost you anything. If you do enjoy the show, you do love the program, like the program a lot, please go on to whatever platform you're getting the show on, and if there's a review section for the show, give us a good review. If not 5 stars, 4 stars, whatever you feel is fair in your heart, let us know, let other people know the show's pretty good. And that's piggybacking off that. Again, we're not going to ask for money, but if you do enjoy the show, tell friends about it, get the word out, do a retweet of us on Twitter or your own post saying, hey, check out Sports Card Nation podcast. Pretty cool show. To us, that's worth more than any money you give us. $2, $5, $10. We don't need the money. We just want, get our name out there. Let people know, hey, this show's pretty good. Check it out. Fairly new show. Doing some things. We'll appreciate that more than any dead presidents. And again, we thank you for listening. We thank you for being on this ride with us.
You've been listening to the Sports Card Nation podcast. Join host John Newman next week as he gives you another jam-packed episode of all things related to the sports card hobby. And a little extra fun, too. Don't forget to check out the show on Instagram at Sports Card Nation Podcast.